Everyone, welcome once again to Vicious Chats. Tim Vicious with me today, former TNA Impact Heavyweight Champion, Digital Media Champion, current X-Division Champ, one of the most athletic big men I ever saw, Moose. It's good to have you on here, man.
Good to be on.
That's how are you feeling? Because you just came off a Full Metal Mayhem with Jeff, and then a few days before that, you had the big match with Obafemi. How are you feeling, all things
I
considered,
feel,
between
I
both?
feel, I feel good. It took me. I had quite a rough week last week. Like you said, I had a real hard hitting match with Obafemi at NXT, and a few days later, I had my first ever ladder match, which was action packed and very hard hitting with the legend Jeff Hardy himself. So yeah, I'm feeling the bruises, but I mean, like they say, business goes on. So on to the next show.
Yeah, I get you on that. I can only imagine. And if you want to talk about having somebody perfect opponent to have a ladder match with, I think the only way you could have got better is if like you had Scott Hall or Shawn Michaels, since they pretty much made it.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. It's definitely one of my most memorable matches. I got to be in there with the legend Jeff himself, and I'm definitely proud of it. And yeah, it's one of those things I'm gonna when I decide to hang the boots up, I'm always gonna remember that moment when I wrestled a guy that I looked up to during my playing days. You know what I'm saying? I was a big fan of his and a super big fan of his. So it's just surreal that damn it, like throughout my career, some of the names of guys that Hall of Famers and legends that I've stepped into the ring with. You know?
Yeah, and, it's a yeah. You initially popped up on my dad's radar. I took him to. I don't know if you could see the picture in the background right here. A couple years ago, when Jeff Jarrett was trying to get GFW off the ground,
Yeah.
you were here for a show in Erie. I took my dad. That was the first time he saw you, and like his jaw hit the floor when he saw you do a standing drop kick. He was like, "You telling me a guy that big is able to get in that kind of air?"
Yeah, and then that's the reaction most people usually get when I hit a standing drop kick.
Yeah, it's
Um,
that kind of athletics just come natural, or was that like something that you had to like work to get to?
and luckily for me, it came natural because of my playing days. It was just something that, like, the reason why I played so many years in the NFL and I lasted so long is not because of my strength. It was just because I was more athletic. I was one of those quick offensive linemen that could get underneath you quickly and very athletic. So when all I had to do was shed some weight, and luckily the athleticism stayed. When I actually it enhanced because I didn't have as much. I wasn't carrying 320 pounds or 315 pounds. I'm now down to 255, 260. So the athleticism enhanced when I dropped all that weight. So it's actually even to my luck.
Yeah. So when you were in the NFL, was like the heaviest you were was about like what, 360?
No, no. The heaviest I was when I was in the NFL was 320.
Oh, okay. Okay, I misheard that. I'm sorry. All right, so yeah, all right, that's cool. So it's when you first started getting dipping your toes into wrestling, so to say, like obviously it's a huge transition, but like when was the moment when it clicked in your head, like, all right, yeah, I can do this. This is something that I can definitely get comfortable with on the long run.
Oh man, I would probably say, I mean, it was instant. It was instantaneously. I think as soon as I started going to training and I started getting more comfortable with hitting the ropes and taking the bumps. I want to say maybe 2 weeks into my training, I was like, oh man, this is something I could easily do. But I always had that attitude because when I looked at it, I came from the world of football. You know what I'm saying? I played all levels of football, high school, college, professional. So I knew in my mind that wrestling wasn't going to be any harder than than football. So, so with that attitude coming in, just knowing that I'm gonna dominate and I'm gonna um I have a passion for this, I knew I was gonna do good.
All right. So when you do your spear, like I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I always notice like anyone that's got like a football background, they always kind of hit a spear different than like some guys that may not. Is that really kind of like the case? Because it looks more like you're trying to like just drive them into the ground as opposed to like trying to knock the wind out of them.
It's funny that I do a spear because I have no, what's the word? No talent in tackling because I was an offensive lineman. You know what I'm saying? So I never had to tackle anybody unless like it was a turnover or something, and I'm trying to get the defender who got the ball down. And most of the time I missed in that case. So it's funny that I use the spear for a finisher, and the only reason why I use the spear for a finisher is because during training, my trainer after training some days will put on film of some like local indie guys, and just to watch matches so we could learn things to do and things not to do in that sense. And I remember watching a match of a local guy. I think he was actually in Ring of Honor, and I want to say this film came from like early 2000s, and he hit a spear and he did the flip with it, and I was like, oh man, that's pretty fucking cool. So the next day in training I was like, I'm gonna try this, and if I could get this is gonna be my finisher. And I did it, and I did it in the first try, so I was like, well, this is my finisher. So that's the only reason why I did the spear. It's not really because I had a football background. It's just because I saw somebody do it on the tape I was watching when I was training. I thought it was cool.
Well, that's fair enough. It's just random weird observations I kind of notice, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I just always kind of put it together. I got a weird brain when it comes to like seeing and observing things. You know, but speaking of ROH, I got to bring it up. You know, I feel like your ROH run is like seriously criminally underrated. I know it was at that time you weren't really like talking much, and you were running with Veda Scott and RD Evans, and you guys were having and you were going on with the streak. I
Yeah.
remember that, and that I thought that was like really cool that when you were doing that, they had you up to 143, I think it was, wasn't it?
I don't think my streak was that. I think RD streak was that high.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
my
That's right.
streak
Yeah.
was only like at 30-0. RD was like at 150 something, And the funny thing about RDs wasn't legit.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
That was the point. That's what made it even better.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what made
okay,
it better because we would do a loop, and like we would have one show this week and he would be at like 40-0. And then the very next week, we would do another loop of shows and he would be 70-0. It was like, I know damn well you didn't have 30 matches in a week span. So well, mine was really low, but mine was legit. And I think mine came up to like, I don't even think it hit the 20s. I think it was like 19-0. And actually I think it was more than that. I think it was like 25-0. And then I end up losing. Cedric Alexander, I believe, broke the streak. Because that's
yeah,
when Veda Scott turned on
yeah,
me.
because that's when she wound up turning her back, and yeah,
Yeah.
I got my memories confused because I remembered the match that you had with RD, and she did that.
Yeah, I broke RD's streak, and then the following, did she turn on me the night? I don't think she turned on me the night I broke RD's streak. I think it was weeks later.
Yeah, because it was
Um,
at
um,
the pay-per-view. Because I remember that pay-per-view specifically because my son was really excited because that also had Steve Carino and BJ Whitmer in a fight without honor.
oh, so maybe she did, but yeah, but I do. I remember I broke RD's streak, and then very soon after, Vader turned on me, and that's what started the feud with me and Cedric, and then he broke my streak.
Yeah. So when you were working in ROH, was there ever any talks for like maybe a long-term deal working with them or like like, guys, I'd like to be here, just give me some kind of incentive or an opportunity?
Yeah, shout out to Delirious Hunter. He was really big on me. He was really big on my upbringing. I remember when my deal was up, and I had those talks with me going to WWE and talks with me going to TNA, and I know Hunter wanted me, but obviously Hunter's not the one that pays people. He's just the booker. But the guys who was in charge of the money, they wanted me too, but they just Ring of Honor wasn't in a place where they were paying people a lot of money, and luckily TNA at that point, I don't know what happened between me and WWE. I think there was talks, and they had offered me, and then last minute it got pulled because of stuff that happened in my past, which everybody is all forgotten about now. But I remember that was a thing, and then TNA offered me a pretty good deal that I couldn't turn down, and I remember Scott Demore was one looking over my contracts at the time because he wasn't even with TNA at that point. And he told me, this TNA deal is pretty legit, so you should take that. So, as much as I wanted to stay in Ring of Honor and keep learning and growing, I think it was time for me to leave and see what I could do with all the stuff that I learned with some of the great guys in that locker room, and that I learned from, like the Jay Lethus, the Jay Briscoe, rest in peace, Mark Briscoe, the Adam Coles, the Roderick Strong. It was a great locker room, and I got a chance to learn from some of the best guys. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was. I definitely wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't spend time in Ring of Honor.
Yeah. And yeah, I got to tell you also, when you made that jump, when you went from ROH to TNA, it was it felt like a big push on my end, like seeing it. It was like, just from a fan perspective, like, oh, wow, okay, he's definitely going to be getting world champ material. He's definitely world champ material. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Right.
Like, did you walk into TNA with the idea of, okay, it's like with that, like it's a matter of when, not if?
Um, First of all, when I walked into TNA, I didn't realize how much of a big deal that I was until my debut. Because Ring of Honor to me was always a small scale company, and I didn't really know the reach Ring of Honor had until when I made my debut. The way the crowd reacted and how social media took it, and that's when I realized, I was like, oh man, I'm actually a name in this wrestling thing. And yeah, when I got there, and I the first night I got there, I was face to face with the world champion, with Bobby Lashley, and I took him out. I knew, even though I don't think I was ready at that point to be a world champion, now that I've been world champion several times and I know what it takes. At that point, looking back, I definitely wasn't ready for that for to be a world champion at that stage of my career. But I definitely knew that if I kept working, and it was definitely a possibility.
That's awesome. Who were some of your riding buddies when you first started?
Oh, where at? And
TNA. I'm sorry, I knew what I meant. I just didn't word it right.
TNA, you really don't have riding buddies, you know what I'm saying? Because at that moment when I signed to TNA, all our shows were at Orlando. So you pretty much took the shuttle to Orlando, and you were there. But some of my riding buddies now is the system. So
Well, yeah.
uh, is the system. So JDC, Dango, Brian Myers, Eddie Edwards. I mean, they're all my best friends. You know what I'm saying? So Lish. So those are pretty much my riding buddies.
Oh, that's cool, man. So, yeah, now, yeah, any plans in the long at any point to get the tag title so that way you can cement yourself as like a Grand Slam?
Uh, I haven't really. I'm very wary when it comes to titles. Like with me, titles are not like my big. especially now that I've won the big one, the TNA World Championship. I've won it multiple times, and I'm now the current X Division championship. But after I won the world title, me chasing championship is not really a thing. It's not something I think about. At this point in my career, I just want to get better at every aspect of wrestling and everything the company gives me. I want to do great at. And I'm in this point in my career too where I want to help younger guys get better. So I'm not in a point in my career where I'm looking for individual success where I'll be like, oh, I want this title so I can cement my legacy. No, I don't think about that. I'm more it's deeper than titles for me in wrestling. To me, is how can I help others? How can I get better at little things that I might feel like I'm struggling in the ring, my promos, my character, my appearance. But winning titles is I let that decision be to the people who makes those decisions. I can't control that. The only thing I can do is control what's given to me and make it the best that I can make it.
All right, that's fair, man. I get that. And, a lot of this, some of the stuff from like the COVID era, I got to say, what your run with EC3, I think that really helped bring up like that. That really felt like that elevated you
Oh
when you were
yeah,
doing that
it
stuff.
definitely did.
Because yeah, it did, man. Because it felt like you were just like, because you still you had the original TNA title that
Yep.
had like the 6 or 8 plates on it,
Yeah.
and
The
yeah,
huge belt they called it.
yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, I only knew it as like I always called it the like the 6 plater.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had that, and then it was next thing you know, right out of nowhere, EC3. Whoa, what in the hell? It was like, oh, all right, cool. And it after that, it felt like you came out of that with like a whole new light in that. Like, what was some of the how did some of the planning for your work with him go?
That whole feud was big shout out to Don Callis. I definitely think that feud helped me change my outlook on what a heel supposed to be, especially a heel of my stature, a heel of my size and my appearance. Because before then I was more of a comedy heel where I could be serious when I want to, but for the most part I was just joking and I was trying to, I guess in my mind, I was trying to be the black Ric Flair. But Don Callis pulled me aside and was like, "Hey, look, you're more athletic than everybody in this locker room. You look, you're bigger than everybody in this locker room. Your physique is insane. Why do you want to be this clown of a wrestler when we could turn you into a monster of a beast?" And he pitched the idea he had, and I wasn't really. It wasn't. I wasn't a fan of it when he first pitched it, but in this business, in wrestling, you have to trust the guys above, right? You have to trust the guys writing, and so I put my trust in Don, and he did a hell of a job turning me into what I end up being. So big shout out to Don Callis. He's another guy that without his tutelage at that period of time, I definitely wouldn't have been um, where I am today.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, because but I brought up a couple of times. My one buddy, he was telling me that when he first saw Don Callis, when he was a kid watching WWF as a kid, as part of the one group, he was saying that the guy that was in charge of that group beforehand was a soap opera actor in South Africa that he grew up seeing. It's just weird random connections. It's kind of weird on how some things all circle around like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad to hear that. And what was your first thought going through? What was like the first thought going through your head when you won the title for the first time?
Oh man, I was a lot of thoughts in my mind. Like I finally did it. I remember Scott, a big mentor. Everybody that knows me knows Scott the more is a mentor of mine, and me and Scott used to go back and forth all the time about because I would always bug him and be like, I want to get the opportunity of being a world champion. And Scott would always tell me, you're not ready. And to me, I would be like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I am ready. But when I won that title, and weeks after that, or months after that, I saw how things change and the position I would been in and matches I would have to had. I remember telling Scott, "You're 100% right that I was not ready for being a world champion because I didn't know the hard work it takes and the maturity it takes to be a world champion." So I remember telling him that, yeah, you're 100% right, and I'm a knucklehead. But to answer your question, yeah, when I won the title, the first thing that was going in my head was I have to mature up quick because I can't make the same foolish mistakes that I used to make before winning this belt. And it's funny because the night that I won the title, I made the dumbest mistake ever. I left it at the building. I won the title, and so that was just me being immature once again. And I remember Scott flipping on me about it. It was like, if you ever lose this thing, not only are you dropping it, I'm going to fire you. And I was like, well, I got to mature up quick, you know. So
Yeah, you gotta like duct tape that to your gear bag.
yeah,
I get that. I've done mistakes like that. I think we've all messed up and made mistakes like that. But I'm glad to hear you're ahead of the curve in the fact of you know where you made a mistake and what you got to do to fix it.
yeah,
That's
I'm
yeah,
always a realist too. Like something about wrestling is you can't take it too serious, and you have to be real with yourself. And that's one thing I pride myself on being is I never want to take pro wrestling too serious where I can't be real with myself when it comes to certain things. I think that's one of the things that helped me grow as a person, as a performer.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And I got to tell you and this just popped in my head, and meant to bring it up also earlier when we were talking about with with Oba. You had probably one of the best clapbacks I've ever seen on Twitter, like right after the match, saying everyone told me no, and all because of stuff from Wikipedia. And now look, like, dude, I got to give you your flowers on that. You hit them back, and you hit the little trolls back, and you hit them hard.
Yeah, it's funny how those guys are because it's one of those things where people don't know what happened in my past. And they read something on Wikipedia and they create this narrative that you're just an evil person and you're this and you're that and without really knowing what happened and without really knowing what happened. It's like, have I ever hit a woman? Absolutely not. Have I ever thrown a woman down the steps? Absolutely not. But they read Wikipedia and they say, "Oh, Moose did this and Moose did that," and in turn, they start saying all these things that, "Oh, WWE is never going to be interested in you. Oh, AEW is never going to be interested in you, and TNA should fire you, and you're never going to be world champion." And it's just one of those things that I take those things personally. You know what I'm saying? And if they knew this, they would probably just shut up and stop saying stuff because when you say I won't do something, I make it a point to do it. You know. So all these people said that I would never be a world champion in TNA. I've been a world champion twice in TNA, actually three times, if you count when I held the big belt. They said I would never wrestle at AEW. Well, I wrestled Kenny Omega in the main
You had
event of
one
an
of the
AEW show.
you had a
Uh,
phenomenal match with Kenny that night.
yeah, they said I would never wrestle in WWE. Well, I just wrestled the NXT World Champion Oba Femi in their show in Madison Square Garden. So it's like um, it's just stupidity. And if all these people really knew who I was as a person, they would be mind blown because I'm none of those things that they've created this narrative for me being, you know. But it's just funny to me. And but like I said, I thank God. I thank all the people in my close circle who always put things back in perspective for me. And yeah, and at the end of the day, I'm just gonna keep working hard to keep breaking more doors and getting better and seeing what the future holds.
And I know I keep sounding like a broken record. I'm sorry, but that is awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that on your part. You know, so I know you said your big thing is you're looking to improve. You're also looking to help out with the talent. At any point, do you ever see yourself when the time comes when you do eventually hang the boots up, you might want to go and do something in like a backstage role?
Yeah, that's definitely something I've talked about. I think when I hang the boots up, because I love wrestling so much, I do want to stay do something in wrestling. Um, that thing, I don't know what it would be. If it's a writer, if it's a agent, if it's a producer, I don't know. But I do want to stick around in doing something in wrestling once my in ring time is done, because I love wrestling so much. But to tell you what actual job that is going to be, I can't tell you that because I don't know. I haven't thought that far into it. But I love wrestling so much that I do see myself doing something in wrestling when I hang the boots up.
I got nothing but the utmost confidence that whatever it is you're going to do, you're going to knock it out the park. Because, you know, it's like the more the people keep saying you can't do something, you just look at them, you're like, all right, hold my beer, watch this.
Yeah, and
You
that's
know,
that's that's my biggest. I just like to make people look stupid when people tell me, and that's always been me. Is I remember when I was in high school, and people would tell me, "Oh, you would never go to a big college, or you will never get offered by a D1 school." And my senior year, I had like 40 D1 schools that offered me. And then when I got to college, friends would tell me, "Oh, you know how hard it is to play in the NFL. You would never play in the NFL." And the funny thing about it is, I don't even like football. I don't like football at all. But because people told me I couldn't do it, I made it a thing to work my ass off and bust my ass. And I ended up getting drafted and played 7+ years in the NFL. So I'm always I'm always waiting to let somebody look stupid and show somebody I could do something that they tell me I can't do.
yeah, dude, more power to you on that because not many people can figure out that formula. Like, okay, you want to say I can't? Well, watch this.
Yeah.
And that's actually that actually is something my son picks up. He's started picking that up. He's 15 now, and he asked me to start teaching him like some weightlifting stuff
Yeah.
and simple things, and I'm not having him go heavy because he's still getting the groove of it. He's just started doing deadlifts on, and I'm like, oh, don't go too heavy. And he's pumping them out, and he's like, nah, Dad, this is light. Give me something heavier. I'm like, all right, whoa, that is way too good for you. You are
And
way
the thing
too
and the
that's
thing
way
about
too
it, like,
natural for you.
you don't have to accomplish these things right away. You just got to keep, because it's not going to happen overnight. You just got to keep working at it and working at it and be determined, and just be determined to do it, and eventually it's going to happen. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's one thing I keep in my mind is like, if I have a goal in my head to do something, yeah, I know I'm smart enough to know it's not going to happen overnight, but I'm also persistent enough to keep, or determined enough to keep going at it and keep going at it and keep going at it until I get it done. And I won't give up until I get it done. So that's the attitude I have. I've always had that attitude. Everybody that knows me knows that that's the type of person I am. So
Oh, that's cool, man. So with the whole now that WWE and TNA are doing the partnership, outside of like, are there any fantasy? Or if you sat down and like with a pen and paper, like, man, I'd like to get a match if I can get a match with this guy or this guy or anything like that.
I'm not the I another thing about me, I'm not the one who sets I mean, I do have some personal dream matches that I would like to have, but I don't like naming them because like some of them is never gonna happen. Like never gonna happen. Like me wrestling Triple H is never gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of my personal dream matches. The match I had with Jeff Hardy, that was one of my dream matches, and that happened. You know what I'm saying? So with the relationship that we have with WWE and NXT, because the relationship is with NXT, so I can't think past NXT, you know. Um, I will be delighted and proud and happy, whatever word you want to use, to wrestle whoever they put in front of me, because I'm in that point of my career where I could have a great match with anybody. So if I get a phone call today and they tell me, hey, look, we want you to do something to Trick Williams, I'll be ecstatic and happy to do it because I know, first of all, Trick is super talented and I know what I'm bringing to the table. And I know I could have a good match with not only him, but anybody in that roster.
Cool. So, do you think, hypothetically, what do you think the odds would be if you had a TNA match at NXT during the WrestleMania weekend?
I don't. Your guess is as good as mine. I have no idea. I don't like thinking about it because I'm not in control of that. I'm just the guy
Fair
that
enough.
waits for the phone call, and when I get the assignment, then I know what I have to do. But
Fair enough. I kind of felt like I had to ask that because
no,
with
I mean,
WrestleMania right
that's a
around the
good
corner.
question, but that's a good question. But
Yeah.
honestly, I have no control over that. They could call me the day before and tell me, "Hey, we want you to do this," and I'll be happy to do it. But other than that, I have no idea what they have planned. I don't even know what I'm doing in my show, in TNA show on WrestleMania weekend. So
Uh,
let alone know what I would be doing if I am even doing anything with the NXT show. You know?
Although it would be pretty cool if at Stand and Deliver they had an Ultimate X match.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh yeah.
that
Hey,
would be.
even if it's not at Stand and Deliver, I'm not gonna lie, my head would explode if they wound up saying, "No, we're gonna do it on night one of Mania."
I mean, I've been seeing on social media, and a lot of fans have been calling for NXT to have an Ultimate X match, and that would be fucking awesome if
Yeah.
they eventually do that. That would be cool, and hopefully, I'm still X Division champion if they ever decide to do that.
I see no reason why anyone. I don't think anyone's going to be able to pry that off you anytime soon.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
goal. The goal is to retire the X Division Championship, and I'm never ever. I know a lot of fans have. It's like every time people tag me on stuff, and they'll be like, "Oh, when is Moose gonna cash in the option C?" I'm never doing that. Never.
Smart man,
Yeah.
smart man, right there. That's smart right there. And dude, I thank you for your time for coming out on this today. I say this to everyone when they're on here. You could be out there doing a million different things, but you chose to sit here, talk with me. You got my eternal thanks. And anytime if you're ever interested in wanting to come back on, you're more than welcome to, and we can shoot the breeze about life, work, whatever.
Okay, for sure. Thanks for having me on, and for sure, I definitely enjoyed our conversation. It was actually better than some of the other podcasts I've done. It's more of a conversation than just you asking me a billion questions.
Well, that's on how I try to do it. I don't want to be
Yeah.
one of those kind of guys that have an index card like, okay, question one,
Oh, trust me,
question
and
two, what's that?
there's a lot of
Yeah,
guys,
I hate
and
those.
you think I'm sitting in front of an FBI getting interrogated because I just committed a crime. But yeah, this was actually one of the better podcasts I've done because it's more conversational. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And I always tell everyone, and you read the message when I asked you. How I describe it. It's like Seinfeld. The show's really about nothing, and it's like if we were sitting on the couch just sharing some stories, like, hey, what happened here? What happened there?
Yeah.
So any socials, any links, or anything you want to put out there for the people to find you or hit you up for something, by all means, the floor is yours.
Yeah, my Instagram is Moose Nation 69, and my Twitter is the Moose Nation.
Man, thank you again. I do appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to come on today. I hope you have a good evening.
You too, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.